Thank you so much.
Can you all hear me? No? Outside mom voice? Hello? A little bit better? Sort of in the back? Hello? Okay, you're good? Okay. Hi, how's everybody doing today? Good. Okay, now come on, I've been up since 2:30, so don't act like you're tired. I don't want to hear about your 8 o'clock class, okay? Adulting is a lot harder here, guys. My name is Tirsa Smith. I'm the morning anchor at WATE Channel 6. Okay. And so we are here today for a fantastic discussion about diversity and to get to know some of the members of our community who are real champions in this cause. So thank you all for being here. I love to have a crowd that's engaged. Don't sit here and just stare at them. Get some questions going. We'll move around. We'll get those questions answered. And we're here to have a good time and to each walk away learning something new about the other. Cool beans? Okay. So first off, let's start by having, well, I guess first, like I said, I'm Tirsa Smith, Channel 6. We're talking about diversity. I've been in Knoxville for about 14 years now. It's supposed to be 2, but, you know, fell in love, and here I go. So I've been in Knoxville a very long time at Channel 6. One of the few African-American anchors that's been there a very long time. My station does a really good job of having different folks from different backgrounds. Very proud to say at Channel 6 we have, geez, over my time, we've had several Indian Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic journalists. So just a good number of women who are also main anchors, which is very important as well. So I come from a station that really does value diversity, and really diversity is just reality. I don't see it as diversity, I see it as just mirroring what you see when you're out in your daily walks of life. So let's get started by introducing our panel. If you would go ahead and tell us your name and tell us why you think you are here being represented on this panel today. We'll start first with Elizabeth. Well, do we have our Skype person yet? I can't really see this. She's not there yet. She's not there yet? Okay, so we will start with Elizabeth. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Ritchie. I have been working for individuals with disabilities for 30 years, I guess. My sons, I have twin sons with autism, and they just turned 30. And I guess it hasn't been 30 years because they were diagnosed a little bit before their 3rd birthday. So I'm one of the founders of Autism Breakthrough, which is an agency that provides services for adults with autism. And we are in our 17th year. It was started by parents of children, not children. They were children who were coming out of the school system, and there were no services in the state of Tennessee for them. So we realized the lack of services, and we came together to try to find an agency that could provide services for adults. So that has been my mission and my cause, and I'm now the executive director of that agency.
Eunice?
I'm Theodis Robinson Jr. I was born in Chattanooga, but I grew up here in Knoxville, over where the Auditorium Coliseum is located. Summer of 1960, I graduated from high school, and the lunch counter sit-ins were going on across the South. They started up in Maryland, I think, no, North Carolina. Where they started, but it didn't take long for them to spread across the South. I was a sit-in participant at lunch counters on Gay Street, and in June of that year, the organization that was sponsoring the sit-ins took out an ad in the local Knoxville News Sentinel. It listed a number of things, like the fact that none of the church-related hospitals in Knoxville, Baptist, St. Mary's or Catholic, Fort Sanders or Presbyterian, accepted, quote, Negro, unquote, patients on any basis, emergency or not. They did not treat black people at the church-related hospitals. They had another that Knoxville had had black cops for many years, all of whom held college degrees, but none had rank above patrolman. They were all just regular patrolmen, whereas their white counterparts without college degrees were sergeants, lieutenants, captains, all up the line. And they also mentioned that the University of Tennessee did not accept black students in undergraduate school. So, having just finished high school and getting ready to go to college, I read that and thought there's something I can do about that. So I sat down that Sunday night, wrote a letter of application for admission to the university, and I got a letter back. I did not mention race. I did not mention the high school from which I graduated because the school system was segregated. There was only one high school in Knox County that accepted black students, and that was Austin High. Never to be confused with Austin East. But I sent that letter in. Several days later, I got a letter back saying, we're sorry, but we don't accept, quote, Negro students in undergraduate school, which told me that they were really checking, given the fact that I didn't mention race. I lived closer to East High, much closer to East High, than I did to Austin. So I wrote a subsequent letter requesting a meeting with the two gentlemen who had signed this letter of rejection for my mom and dad, because I'm 18 years old, so you don't go anywhere like this without your parents. Came over and met with them, and they were very cordial, very nice. There was nothing that they could do about it. And wanted to know if we would like to meet with a man whose name all of you are familiar with, Dr. Andy Holt, who was president of the University of Tennessee. He wanted to know why I wanted to come to UT, and I explained it to him. He said really nothing that he could do about it. It would have to take action by the Board of Trustees. And we'd like for him to take the matter to the board. And we told him yes, but he needed to understand, and the board needed to understand, that if they did not change this policy, that I plan to sue the University of Tennessee. And so time passed by. They went to the Board of Trustees. They brought in the State Attorney General and queried him as to whether or not he thought he could win such a case. He assured them that he could not win a case like this. So they changed the policy, and on January 4th, 1961, I became the first black undergraduate student here at the university. I retired about 2.5 years ago from the university because I came to work here as vice president for equity and diversity for the UT system.
My name is Loida Velasquez, and although everybody treats me as an immigrant, technically I am not, because I'm originally from Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico is what? A commonwealth of the United States. As a matter of fact, the Constitution of Puerto Rico states that Puerto Rico is part of, but do not belong to, the United States. So when I first came here, the first thing they asked me is if I had a green card. And I had to start educating people about what Puerto Ricans were. And I have been doing that for a long time. I didn't intend to become an advocate either. I came, like most immigrants come here for a reason. Most come from financial reasons. Mine was health. I had a son that was born partially deaf, and at that time in Puerto Rico, there was nothing for him but a school for the deaf, and I didn't want him to be interned in a special school. And I had a friend that was a professor at Wheaton College in Illinois, and she wrote me a letter saying they just passed a law here that the schools have to serve children with disabilities. So I came to see if he could be helped, but I didn't intend to stay. My intention was see how my son would do in school for a few years, and then go back to Puerto Rico and trying to implement that in Puerto Rico. But my children started to do very well in school. My husband got a very good job, and we kept postponing going back until we decided it's no use. Let's sell the house in Puerto Rico and buy one here. Now, although I have probably at this point a presentation that is I call Latino 101 and explain everything about the culture and identity of the Latino community. At first, you know, coming from Puerto Rico, I didn't know South American, Mexicans, or Central Americans. But I was lucky enough to get a job, of all places, at the University of Tennessee to direct a grant that served migrants and seasonal farm workers. Now, when we started doing that, and that grant was written by one of the most prolific grant writers in the university, there were not that many migrant workers in our area. There were some in Morristown. Lenore City was trying to get some to work at the mushroom farm factory. So we established sites in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. So for the rest of my career at the University of Tennessee, I traveled through those states, not only establishing these sites and making sure that the students were served, and we were doing GED preparation in Spanish for migrants and children of migrants that were interested in continuing their education. But not only getting the programs, but educating those communities about these people that were moving into the community and why we were serving them. And we were establishing sites at community colleges. So we had to start by educating the community college and then the community around the site in serving the students. So I didn't select a career as an advocate, but I became an advocate. And since then, that's what I have been doing. When I retired from the program, and the program died after I retired, I decided that I wanted to use the knowledge that I had accumulated to educate programs and businesses that wanted to work with the Latino community, and that's what I have been doing since. And I call my program Hispanics in Education and Training.
Hello everyone, I'm Shannon Heron. I was born and raised here in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I did my undergraduate and graduate degrees here. I now work at the Center for Student Engagement here on campus. So I grew up in Knoxville, like I said, and in your typical conservative Southern Baptist family. And growing up gay in that kind of environment was not accepted. And so I stayed in the closet until I got to college, pretty much. And in college, I majored in photography, and so a lot of my work was dealing with these personal issues of identity and sexual identity and things like that. So I studied that all through undergrad. In grad school, I kind of wanted to expand that research to include other LGBT people in the South and their experience. And so I got my Master's of Fine Art in Transmedia Design, and so my second year in graduate school, I received a fellowship from the College of Arts and Sciences to fund my graduate thesis project. And so through that fellowship, I created an organization called All Out Knoxville. We are an LGBT organization that seeks to kind of connect our community in a more authentic way. So we do that through networking opportunities, we do social events, and we do volunteer opportunities for the LGBT community here in Knoxville. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, good panel, right? One of the things that kind of struck me when you all were talking is the fact it's 2016 and some of the issues that you all are speaking about are still things that need to be crusaded, you know? I would think for you all, being students here at UT, is it not just kind of jaw-dropping that Theodis is in this room saying that he was the first Black student here at UT? Because normally we think of like history books, and you're supposed to see him with like, the little KFC tie, and he's supposed to be older with the beard because it's supposed to be so long ago, but it's not really that long ago. Or the fact in 2016, we're just now getting started with more opportunities for folks that have disabilities. Talk a little bit about what it means for you all to be here at East Tennessee, and if you feel like you are seen. And when I say that, obviously you all are very young and intelligent and going to school, so hopefully you're keeping up with current events. There's a lot going on right now these years when it comes to diversity. But one of the biggest issues is, especially in this climate, of telling people that everything is okay. What is the hardest part about your community being seen? What challenges do you face?
Well, in particular for our adults with autism, we want our adults to live a full life in an integrated community. So to live a full life in an integrated community means that they have the same life that you and I have. And one of the biggest challenges for us is that we want our individuals to have jobs. And that's a big, big thing for us right now. Tennessee, the governor has named Tennessee to be an employment first state, and particularly for individuals with disabilities. Breakthrough is really, really, really a hard-working agency that makes sure that all of our individuals have that opportunity. But we can't do that without employers. Employers need to accept individuals with disabilities into their job placements. And so they need to understand that our individuals are just as good, if not better, than some of the employees that they have in their workplace right now. I'll give you an example. My son, I have twin sons with autism. I'm not sure whether I mentioned that or not. But my one son has worked at Walgreens for 5 years, and they love him there because, first of all, part of his disability is he's obsessive compulsive. So he makes sure that those shelves are lined up, perfectly stocked. There's not one box that's out of order. There's not one bottle that's out of order. So everything is lined up. The other thing is he's not on his phone texting girlfriends or doing slash or smash or whatever that new thing is now. I'm not real tech savvy. He's not doing that all the time on his phone. He gets those boxes in, gets them emptied. He's never late for work because he's there on time. He gets a box, it gets emptied, it gets done, he moves on to the next one. So employers don't really think of those things when they look at an individual with disabilities, and so they need to see a broader scope when they look at individuals with disabilities. So we need to train employers to look wider than just an individual with disabilities. And they need to have that opportunity to be out in the world, make friendships, to have mentors, and have the same productive life that we all have. They need to earn the same wage that we all earn. They don't need to be doing piecemeal work. That's not productive for them. They need to have that same opportunity, because when they earn the same amount of money that we earn, they are not getting disability benefits. That switches, so the whole world is affected by them having the same opportunities that we do, and it broadens their life, it broadens their opportunities. So that's something that we fight for every single day.
A lot of times when you think of autism, you think of children. A lot of folks forget that these kids do grow up, and
that's exactly, I mean, we've had individuals say, well, adults with autism, I just think of children with autism. They grow up, they need the same supports that everyone else needs.
especially when parents go pass on, they need to have income to take care of themselves.
And that's the biggest fear of parents. They all say to me, what's going to happen to my kids when I'm gone? To them, they're their kids, but those adults are going to grow up, and that's my biggest fear. When I'm no longer around, what's going to happen to my sons when I'm not here? So.
Anyone else about just being seen in society as it is right now in 2016?
Oh, yes. One of the more interesting experiences that I had when I came here to school in 1961, I could be walking down Gay Street, which was, and is getting to be that way again, very well populated, lots of people all the time. I could be walking down Gate in 1960, and of course I'm passing lots and lots of white people who never looked at me. They never laid, their focus was just somewhere behind me or through me. But on UT's campus, because I stood out, everybody's eyes were on me. You know, I walked down the street over here, and nobody missed the fact that I was there. And that same problem still exists in being seen and being heard in the larger society. Media plays a big role in that as far as the kind of coverage that they focus on the black community. There once was a program on Channel 6, Ursa.
I don't know where this is going, so I'll reserve my face. Go ahead. I'm gonna go with this. Go ahead.
It was called Political Roundtable.
Okay.
There was a moderator, and then, of course, there were 4 panelists.
This is a while ago, right? Because I don't remember. This is...
This is before you.
Okay, I was just saying I don't recognize it.
You're not here. You said 14 years that you've been here in Knoxville, which means you got here back to what, 2002?
Mm-hmm.
And this was back.
They want you to talk louder.
Oh, they want me to talk loud. Hey, I can definitely talk loud. But they, it was a 4 panelists, 1 moderator program where we talked about politics, both local, state, and national. And there were 2 conservatives, 1 moderate, I would call him, and then there was me. And there's nothing about me that can be misdiagnosed as being conservative. I don't fit in that little pigeonhole. But the show changed when they brought another guy, recently retired, or maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Gene Patterson, you know him.
Mm-hmm.
And he revamped the program, and I was revamped out the door. So that ability to be seen and be heard it has a lot to do with what media does. Everybody knows about Xavier Martin and what happened to Xavier Martin being shot and killed in a drive-by shooting.
Mm-hmm.
How many in this room ever heard of Mark Dean? And in the back.
You're interested.
Yeah. Okay, those of you with laptops and computers somewhere, Mark Dean was in the first black engineering class here at the University of Tennessee. He was from Morristown, and after he graduated with a degree in electrical engineering, he went to work for IBM with him on a research team. He was part of the team that wrote the program that allows your computer to talk to your printer. Does that come into play often with you?
Yes.
Yeah, every day practically. And he went on from there to other positions at IBM. He retired eventually from IBM as vice president for research and development at that corporation. He's now in faculty here at the University of Tennessee, the College of Engineering. And he's got 40 some odd patents to his credit. But while lots of folk know about Xavier Hobson, they know nothing about Mark Dean, and yet he touches lives every day in so many different ways. So it's the focus of the media that the negative stuff gets exalted and played up because there's this idea that you need to do this to draw viewership, to build up your rankings so that you can charge more for advertising. It doesn't matter about portraying what really is happening out here. So that's still a problem as far as being able to be in the center of focus within the American electorate.
Would you believe that I never had a taco before coming to Tennessee?
You never had a what?
I never
Oh, a
had
what? Oh, wow, okay. And wait a minute, It's Tuesday, so I'm gonna talk to her later about that.
The stereotype of Latinos
That's right.
is that we're Mexican and we eat tacos. The truth of the matter is that we are people from 23 different countries and have a history that ties us together, but it's not a history that we want to celebrate. It's a history of colonization. So my biggest concern is to educate people about who we are and to dispel all those stereotypes. We had 3 waves of Latino immigration to Tennessee. The first one was in the 60s and it was all professionals. Professionals, we're talking about TVA and Department of Energy trying to implement affirmative action. So they were recruiting Latinos. That's what the wave that I came in. Then came the big wave of workers. First working the lands and then construction, when construction was big. And lately, we're experiencing a 3rd wave. And these are 2nd and 3rd generation Latinos that are coming from other states, coming here because they are bilingual, and banks and mortgage companies and schools and stores are trying to hire bilingual people, and they are hiring the Latinos that are coming from other places. We have from South America that we never had a big population. We have an Argentinian population here that is huge, and mostly are professionals.
I didn't know that.
That's my role.
There you go. I see you.
Visibility is really important to me, especially after spending 22 years in the closet. And so growing up here in Maryville, I went to Maryville High School. There was probably one out LGBT person at that school, and so visibility was a huge problem for our community when a lot of us don't come out until college. The second issue with that, when I got to college, I surrounded myself with a large group of LGBT friends, and every day I would hear them talk about how they just couldn't wait to get out of here, that there wasn't anything for them in Knoxville. They wanted to go to bigger cities where the LGBT community is bigger and more active. And so that really hurt me because I love Knoxville and I plan to stay here. And so that was kind of my mission going forward with All Out Knoxville, to show people that you can be LGBT and you can live in Knoxville and you can be happy here. It's a big mission of ours to show people that if everyone LGBT from UT graduates and moves away, who's going to be here for the next generation of LGBT people. So yeah, visibility is really important.
Any questions from the audience? I don't want to, because I have questions for days. You're good? Okay, please raise your hand if you have a question for anybody on the panel, and we'll just stop and get your question. One of the things that you all were talking about when talking about being seen, and you were talking about like stories that are covered on the news. One thing when looking at TV, are you ever amazed at how it's finally getting better, but how different groups are seen in print media and in advertising? Since a lot of the folks here are in communications and some in marketing folks are here, some of you all. There has been controversy before. I think it was JCPenney that had Ellen, and there were folks that had an issue with that. Even one of the, what was it? Was it one of the cereal, I think it was a cereal company, Honey Nut Cheerios. Was that the one where they had the interracial couple with the little girl, and people were truly upset? Now again, this is a commercial about cereal. This is nothing controversial. This is just breakfast food, and they had a couple on there that chances are you may have seen just on your way out about your day. Do you feel like we're getting better, America, about accepting different types of people when it comes to what's considered the all-American way?
Definitely. See, I'm older than anybody in this room. I'm the only person in here who ever met Andy Hope, although everybody in here heard of me. So I've been around for a little while. I'm 74 years old. Grew up in the 40s and 50s and turned 18 in 1960. I remember when an ad like that Cheerio ad, there would have been bombings of TV stations. Nat King Cole got a network variety show, and they blew up a broadcast tower in Alabama, and lots of stations refused to carry the program because he was black. look at it today. You know, the commercial that you're talking about, and there are many more commercials like that. And black actors playing roles in commercials. You didn't see that when I was a kid growing up. Of course, our primary means of communication was the radio. You couldn't see very much. But even there, you had the Amos and Andy show, which it started on the radio. These were two white actors, sort of figuratively speaking in blackface, because you didn't see their faces, but you could hear their voices. In certain intonations, ways of pronouncing words, putting sentences together, you would draw the conclusion that these were two black men, which they weren't. When they took it to television, they couldn't do that, so they had to get some different people. But that kind of portrayal has definitely changed in my lifetime.
I'm always excited when I hear some Spanish on TV. But my first contact with discrimination was not directly to me, but when my son, that at that time was in early teens, came home crying, saying that he went to visit his girlfriend and the parents threw him out of the house. And my son has darker skin than mine and very curly hair, so he had the profile. My 4 children, 3 of them are married, and they're married to white people, to local people. So my grandchildren
bridge the gap. That's all right.
So my grandchildren look very different from me. So I think we are changing, and for the best.
Yeah, I definitely think that we're progressing really well. I think there's room in our community, especially with the trans community. Actresses like Laverne Cox and people like Caitlyn Jenner, they're kind of breaking down those stereotypes, and they're being seen a little bit more in the media. I think that's one portion of our community that's not seen too much, though. I was thinking the other day, I was in Target and saw like a wedding cart that had 2 grooms on it and got so excited for that. So little things like that, really exciting.
It's kind of like when they made the mahogany collection for Hallmark. It was like, and I'm gonna get that because somebody's gonna get it eventually. I'm gonna do that and put that up for later.
Right.
What's it like for you living in Knoxville? You talked about the courage to come out after school. Do you find that it's a little bit easier here? Knoxville's still a very conservative place. Is your daily walk one of ease, or is it still some hurdles?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because sometimes, or at least the type of diversity I see myself as, I can kind of hide. It's not something that's on the outside, so if I don't want people to know that I'm gay, they don't have to necessarily know that. So if I'm ever uncomfortable in a situation, I'm able to hide that. So that does give me like a point of privilege with that. I think Knoxville kind of exists in a bubble of inclusivity a little bit, and kind of get off campus and get outside of this general area. Places are not as accepting and welcoming of the LGBT community. Just thinking about, I can walk down Gay Street and hold hands with my boyfriend and not feel like I'm unsafe, but I wouldn't probably do that in Marable at this point still. So I think that there's definitely room to grow in that. But Knoxville is definitely progressing. I think it's in large part because of the university.
Since all of you all are advocates for your representative causes, what would you say to this group of young people about how to start the discussion? I think sometimes these discussions are hard and they're really uncomfortable. You look at the news, you look at what folks say, just election year. Oh, I can't stand it. Every 4 years. You just know Facebook. Oh wait, I forgot, young people are on Facebook. So you just know Facebook is going to be full of people talking about whatever they think is right or wrong with other candidates and their causes. How do you start the conversation so that you can get your point across and you can hopefully drop some knowledge on someone about whatever your stance is? How do you start that so that it's a more comfortable conversation? Or maybe not comfortable, maybe just one that just needs to be had.
I just think a lot of it is, with individuals with disabilities, is a lot of it has to be taken in. How would you feel if you were the parent of an individual with disability? How would you feel if you were walking in their shoes? I say that to staff. How would you feel if you were a parent and you came to pick up that individual and they had mismatched socks on, or their clothes were dirty, or they were unshaven, how would you feel if you thought that that was the way that your adult son was going to be living for the rest of their lives? I mean, the quality of care has to be there, and the way that you think that that person is going to be respected. So it's the same way in a conversation. It's the same way, the words that you use to talk about them, the way an employer would treat them, the way that anyone in life would treat them, the way that you're going to think about them. I mean, that's the way that you have to approach them in life. So you don't want to give them any less respect than you would any other individual. So I mean, that's the way we all have to be in life for each other. So any person with a disability, any person that has any other difference than us, we all have to treat each other the same.
Have you ever had a situation where you had to really get someone straight where, in regards to your sons, either for their care or just their daily living?
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's sometimes when you're out in the community, I mean, I've gone to church and they love to go to the Christmas Eve service. And they love the silent night where you light the candle and the lights go out. They love hearing the hymns. And, you know, there are times when, and they, in that situation, they're rockers, so they love to rock. Physically, they don't look any different than anybody else in this room. But when they go in and sit in that church service, they like to rock like this. So that makes them look different, and they are aproxic, so they can make some different sounds. And so immediately there's sort of a focus when they walk in the room, and you're 30 years old and you're sitting and you're looking like this, and you make a sound like that. So there's a turning of heads. And I watch people because I think, how are they going to react? And some people start whispering, and they are like leaning forward, and they're looking, and other people just look at me and smile. And the people who look at me and smile are the wonderful people to me, because I think, yes, these are my sons, and they could have been your sons. That's right. They could have been your sons. And God bless you that you get to go home and they aren't your sons in that respect. But God bless me because they've been a wonderful gift to me. So, and that's the way we all need to treat each other.
I had a situation, I have a little girl who's 7. Oh, I'll get you next. I have a little girl, my little girl is 7, and we were at Walmart, and one of the workers there is in a wheelchair. And my daughter, I guess, really had never registered, wheelchair, and so she was staring. I said, "What are you staring at?" She's like, "Mommy, he's rolling in a chair." And I said, "Yeah," I said, "He uses that so he can get around like you. His legs don't work, but he's totally like you. He just uses a chair." And she looks at him and she goes, "Can you go fast?" He's a young guy. He's like, "There's toys," and he goes, "Yes, I can." She goes, "That's so awesome." And it was just that moment of just explaining it to her, so she wouldn't just there instead of going, "Don't look, come here." I just explained it to her, and sometimes that just makes the difference.
That's exactly right. If you just understand that, there's no difference. Yeah.
What's your name?
I'm Joey.
Hey, Joey. Go
Hi,
ahead.
how are you? I have a question for Mr. Robinson, actually. So, what kind of mindset did you have, and how much strength did it take to swim against the current in the 1960s? And what advice would you have for someone who wants to make a difference in the world and swim against the current today?
All right, Joy. I want to combine my answer with one that you asked as far as what can young folk do. As I said earlier, I grew up here in Knoxville, and so I know this area, at least I feel like I know this area. People use these nice words about being conservative. I use different words backwards, and I make no apologies for that, and I can say that since I grew up here and I'm a native Tennessean. As far as what did it take for me to do what I did, I look at it from the vantage point, I had no choice. It was wrong to have segregation at lunch counters. So interesting, before the sit-ins began, I sort of had my own little sit-in. I was working out in Hall's community, and I got off from work, and I was hungry, so I went across the street to this fast food place. Nobody was in there except me and the people who were taking the orders, and no customers. I ordered a cheeseburger, and they were preparing it, And then I decided that I wanted to sit down at the lunch counter, so I did. And I was told, no, you can't sit here, you know, that's just not, it's basically against the law. And so you can't sit here. And so I told them what they could do with that cheeseburger, which would not have been very pleasant, especially if it was just coming off the grill. So, and I left. But when lunch counter demonstrations began over in North Carolina, Greensboro, North Carolina, spread like they did, again, I was a senior in high school when that started. And I had no choice. My parents owned a restaurant. 98% of their clientele were black. And so, you know, and my parents encouraged me to do the things that were going on to advance the livability for black folk in this country. Matter of fact, my dad participated in a lunch counter sit-in, and that's another story that's hilarious, because those were nonviolent, and my dad didn't think that somebody called him the N-word or a Coca-Cola in the top of his head, that he could remain nonviolent. So he agreed he'd stay home and let me go and support me, because I understood what the tactics were. But the second thing in all of this, and this goes back to the question that you asked, what can young folk do today? The first thing is we live in an information society. Access that information, process it, think about it. Don't just follow in the footsteps of what has gone before you, because what had gone before me was unacceptable, and I had to challenge it. If you open yourself up to ideas, to different points of view, and not be stuck in some posture that really, if you think about it, is foreign to you, and that's sort of what the point that you made, you can do things and get active. How many people in this room, by show of hands, have ever worked in any way in a political campaign? Most hands stay
Before I
down.
was a journalist, teenage years.
You have to get involved. That was one of the things when I came through. Students over here were very active. We had students running for state legislature. I can think of 3 or 4 right off the bat. And they didn't sit passively on the sidelines. They were out there involved, supporting different causes, whichever way those causes swung, but they got involved. And you have to do the same thing. You have to equip yourself with the knowledge and then stand up for what you believe in and not be sitting on the sidelines.
You have a question? Tell us your name.
My name is Brian. My question is also for Mr. Robinson. Ruby Bridges back in 1954 was the first American or African-American student in public schools, and she faced a lot of public outcry from it. Did you face any of the same similar outcry when you were trying to get into the University of Tennessee and your process of complying and getting the policies changed?
Not really. And I contrast UT with the University of Georgia, because that's in that same time frame. Georgia accepted its first 2 black undergraduate students. Here, things went smooth. Now, I learned later that there was a lot of preparation for the desegregation of the University of Tennessee. I didn't realize that campus police were shadowing me to make sure that nothing happened, that nobody, attacked me or did anything like that. As far as I was concerned, I did not encounter anything like that. At UG, they had to call out the state police, highway patrol, because they had riots on that campus. Somebody tried to torch a dormitory. And, it was just that riots broke out, those kinds of things. And I didn't encounter that at all. One that I forgot to mention, as I said, I came here in January of 1960. University of Tennessee was on a quarter basis, fall, winter, and spring quarters. I was an in-state student. I lived at home with my parents, so I was not trying to desegregate a dorm, which is a whole nother story. In-state tuition for an undergraduate here at the University of Tennessee, when I came through, for 3 quarters or full academic year, was $225. Think about that.
That's a moment in history, isn't it?
You paid that much for a single book.
Wow. Oh, all right, microphone, and then we'll go to you next with the microphone after that.
My name is Jake Albright, and thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. My question is for you, Ms. Ritchie. I have personal ties to people with autism in my family, so I definitely understand and relate to where you're coming from. How do you think Knoxville is accepting to people with autism? I understand stairs and everything. I do. How do you feel personally in our community? How are people dealing with it? Are we opening up more to it? Are people accepting of it more?
Well, I think we've been, as I said, we've been in existence for 17 years, and we're the only agency that it's just focusing on autism. So I think it's certainly improved. As Teresa said, people don't even recognize that children grow up and become adults with autism. That's been a hurdle for us. So I think it has improved. Our staff, we've had more people come apply for work at Breakthrough because they have recognized that we do focus just on adults with autism. And the whole community has recognized that we call it an epidemic. I don't really like that word because when my sons were diagnosed with autism, it was 1 in 10,000. Now it's 1 in 68. And they really don't know why that has changed so dramatically, whether it's the diagnosis, whether there are things going on. They use the puzzle piece to represent autism because no one knows the cause, so that no one knows what the cure is. Because if you don't know the cause, you can't find the cure. So, but that doesn't mean that you don't work with individuals to help them develop, and you keep working with them, because when you find the cure, you really want to be ready that they can just step out there. So there's always hope to work with individuals, and the development with our individuals is phenomenal when you work with them and keep developing. So, we have individuals employed. We have Project Search at UT Medical Center and at Children's Hospital. We have all sorts of employment opportunities, and we have individuals out there getting jobs. So there is a great deal. We're going to start a new employment initiative. So our employers are accepting our individuals. Walgreens is wonderful with us. They have what's called the READY program. They're a great employer. So employers are accepting individuals with disabilities. We don't personally work with Kroger's, but you see lots of individuals with disabilities working at Kroger's. They're really great about it. I'm not trying to plug different employers, but they are out there and they are accepting. So 10 years ago, you really wouldn't have seen that. You had enclaves where individuals sit and they do piecework and they put little pieces together. We're getting away from that in the state. It's not really allowed anymore. So things really have changed. So there is a positive, but it needs to be more. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Olana Osborne, and I know that you all previously stated that there have been many strides made in Knoxville and perhaps maybe the global sphere as a whole for each of your causes. But I'd like to know what each of you feel as though that one next step is for all of your causes so that we can continue to make larger strides in the future.
I'll tell you what the one next step is for us.
Okay, go for it.
It's funding. Agencies, provider agencies in the state cannot continue to exist with the funding that we get from the state government. We have only had a 1% increase over the last 6 years. And we're dying. I mean, we really are dying. So the state government really needs to look at the funding increase. We got, I think it was an 11-cent increase for staffing to provide an increase in what we can pay our direct support professionals. They can go to McDonald's and make more than they can come and work with the individuals that we support with the individuals with autism. It's hard work working with them. So if you can go work at a McDonald's and make more, why would you want to come and spend your days taking care of an adult with autism? You don't ever know when they're going to have an aggressive behavior, and you have to do all their ADLs and their supports. Some individuals still need daily care with their toileting and all that kind of stuff. So if you could go flip hamburgers, why would you come and do those kind of jobs? You have to just really love your job in order to do that. So we need funding.
In terms of immigration, I would say that the most needed issue is getting to know the issues. Do you know that an undocumented person cannot get a driver's license here? And do you know that that person that might be driving next to you, that might be undocumented, that might be driving without a driver's license, doesn't have insurance either? So getting the immigrants to get a driver's license benefit you. It's for your benefit. It's not only for theirs. And there are a lot of issues like that, like children that cannot go to college because they came here as undocumented. There's a lot of issues, and the most important recommendation that I will make to you, once you get to know a person that came from another place, ask them how they got here. You will be surprised, and you will learn a lot.
And then we could hire those people. I didn't mean to interrupt, but then we could hire them because we don't have enough staff. So if they could get the documentation, we could hire them, and that would help us too. So.
What did you mean by getting to know how did they get here? What do you mean by that?
The very first time that I realized, and how difficult it can be, and what forces are pushing and pulling people to come to the United States, was when I heard one of our students saying that he drank his urine while crossing the desert. Could you imagine that? So knowing that their stories will open your eyes to many things that you could be doing in order to improve not only lives for them, but your own.
For me, the next big thing that can happen occurs on November 8th, the election for President of the United States. Because whomever that is, and both candidates, both major party candidates, have laid out their vision in many speeches, many policy statements, what have you. Their ability to stand the pressure of what that job is all about, their ability to have the right temperament to be President of the United States is so important to everything that any of us have said up here today. And so, inform yourself, educate yourself. If you're not registered to vote, register. If you are registered, make damn sure that you go to the polls and vote, because it is very important. I saw a breakdown of many people. I've got some of those, I think, in my family, feel that, my vote won't matter. Well, they did a breakdown in some states where if 6 in different states, my particulars here won't be totally accurate, but they'll drive home the point. In Pennsylvania, if some election, if just 6 more people had voted a certain way in each precinct in that state, the election would have gone the opposite way. So every vote does count, and yours counts. And what the government does, we'll take for example, how many wish that you could come here to the university and graduate in 4 years debt-free? Would that be a nice thing? Would the ability to access student loans without these gigantic levels of interest, would that be useful? You know, I certainly feel it would. For one, I want all of you guys to be able to find jobs at the highest level of your ability. I'm on Social Security, among other things, and I want to see a strong workforce, an educated workforce that can contribute to the system. And so, November 8th, that's the most important thing to advance everybody's cause, including your own.
Obviously, listening to you all are, courageous for whatever cause you're speaking out on. Have you ever experienced any type of discrimination, or even on behalf of your children, but any type of discrimination that just kind of left you baffled for a moment? The oldest go last.
There's so many.
Select one.
So many, but one that sort of stands out. I was living in South Knoxville at the time, and I went to the service station to get some gasoline. It was late, late 10 o'clock, which is really not late. But I pulled up to the pumps on the side facing the window, so people inside could see me and I could see them. And I pressed the things for being able to pump the gas, and it wouldn't come on. So I got out of I was out of the car already. I went inside to ask them what was going on, why wasn't the pump turned on. And they said, oh, that's our new policy, that you have to prepay in order to be able to get some gasoline. And okay, I left my credit card because I was filling up. And I filled the car up and went back in and signed paperwork or whatever I had to do and collect my card. But I didn't buy what they said. So I pulled to the back of the lot and sat there. Another car pulled in and parked on the side opposite from where I was, so they were hidden from the view of the people inside. 2 white guys. They got out of their car, punched the buttons, the pump came on, they filled up their car, and then paid and left. So I went back in. I want to know what's the deal with this. You wouldn't turn the pump on for me, but you turned it on for these 2 guys. Oh, blah, 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 I said, oh yes, I know what this is. This is called racial profiling. And I want the name of the manager and his phone number. So I called, and he finally got back to me, denying it had anything to do with race when I knew better, and offering me free car washes and what have you. Well, hell, I was driving a Miata convertible. I don't put that through anybody's car wash. I do it myself. And that was the last time I gassed up at that place.
Who knew you drove a convertible? All right.
Still do.
All right.
One thing you'll notice about fancy cars, 2-seaters, and that they will all have either white beards, gray hair, or bald. Somebody in their 20s with kids can't do that.
Yeah, tell me about it. Got the mom SUV. Go ahead.
So I think I've been very fortunate living in Knoxville, not really encountering too much discrimination, definitely nothing too terrible. I think one thing that you guys might be able to connect with, just throughout undergrad and graduate school going out in Knoxville and like going to a club and thinking, you don't think about like dancing if you're a straight couple, dancing with your partner. But when I do that, or when I have done that in the old city, like everyone in the dance floor just like stares at you. You're the only gay couple in Hannah's dancing together. So I think that's kind of maybe not discrimination, but everyone kind of focusing on that. And then obviously this summer with what happened at Pulse in Orlando, while I wasn't there or anything like that, it was my community, and that someone went into this safe space. I think gay clubs are really, they're safe spaces for our community, and that really did feel like an act of discrimination against me personally, just because I accessed those spaces. Thinking that someone would come into that and do something like that was terrible, and I think it really affected a lot of people in our community.
You have a question?
Sorry, I know we're short on time. My name is Sophie, and I have a question for Mr. Heron. You talked about visibility and feeling welcome on campus, and I know there's a lot of voices within our LGBTQ plus community on campus right now who don't feel that they're visible and welcome. Currently, we have the Pride Center being asked to take down their flags. We had a student get jumped in the fort this past weekend, and he believes it was because of his sexuality. So how do you feel UT as a campus has come forward in LGBT acceptance and visibility since you were here and as a student, and how do you feel it's maintained or even gone back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I was in school, I did feel comfortable and safe here, and I think that it has kind of stepped back a little bit. When I was creating All Out Knoxville, my whole kind of platform was that I felt that LGBT students at UT were very well supported. And when I was talking to them, this is probably 2 years ago or so, when I was beginning the project, you know, they felt like they were supported. There were plenty of organizations working for them, things like that. And so I didn't want to just create another organization for students, basically. And so I kind of looked into what happens when you graduate. And I felt like since they were supported so well when they were on campus, I could be that support once they graduate and go out into the community. I think that the mission and vision of All Out Knoxville is kind of looking back at the students now, especially with everything happening at the Pride Center and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion closing. So going forward, I think that a lot of our mission and focus will be on the students and how can we support them while they're in school so that they remain in Knoxville post-graduation.
I guess this is our time to now wrap up. Mm-hmm. We want to give our panel a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Alice Worth, the Chair for Diversity Inclusion Week. I want to thank the professors for bringing their students, because without you, the program would not be. We want to also thank our beautiful moderator, Teresa Smith from WATE Channel 6. Ms. Ritchie, Mr. Robinson, Ms. Valquez, Mr. Heron. Ladies and gentlemen, we have living, breathing history here today. And you don't get that opportunity. They've made a difference for not just the people that they care about, for all people. And it's up to you. Somebody asked, what can you do? First of all, when something comes that's wrong, stand up, challenge it. Don't be still. You are our present and our future. And I like to know when I'm with this chair walking that it's going to be okay. You have another opportunity this afternoon in our Orange Sphere to listen to your peers talk about their experiences here on our campus. And tonight in this room at 5:05 to 6:15 without having your professors bring you. And then Wednesday, at McClung Museum, Alaka Williams from Script Network, a pioneer and worker in leadership and diversity, will be there from 5:45 to 6:45. Ladies and gentlemen, we go on and on this week. So look around. Our closing culminating activity is this Thursday evening, 5 to 7. I have the deans and directors out there making hamburgers, hot dogs, veggie burgers. We have bouncy houses and games. All the different programs in the college will be represented with activities for you. Henna, cultural performances. We are building community. It takes every one of us. And I don't want to just be hot air.
This is your school, this is your college, and we are a step ahead. So we invite you, we thank you, and have a great day.